Dear venerables, sisters and Dhamma friends, we are going to start today's Dhamma talk in the retreat number 100, first day, first Dhamma talk. May everyone get seated and give the consent with 3 times sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tasse bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhasse. Dasuththara pavakkami dhammang nibbana pattiya dukkasanta kiriyaya sabba ganta pamohanang titi. Dear venerable sister and Dhamma friends, this stanza declared by Venerable Maha, one of the main disciples of the Buddha, and he is giving a kind of a presentation to the fellow meditating monks, and this is the introductory stanza he is going to give. He says, in groups starting from 1 to 10, I will declare. Buddha, whenever he was conducting his duties for about 45 years, he used to teach people many Dhamma points or teachings, and Venerable Sariputta was the first person who started compiling them or making the theory of knowledge for the first time in the human history. Early also there were a lot of knowledge, both from the practical as well as the theoretical point of view. They were coming in a kind of a disorganized manner, remembering and by-hearting and giving to the disciples. So after the teaching of the Buddha, Venerable Sariputta was as a lay person, is a well-educated person, well-disciplined person. He himself first became an enlightened being, and then he was the first person so concerned about the newcomers or the beginners. And that was his duty to organize the knowledge in a numerical order. So this is the one of the first suttas or discourses called Dasuththara Sutta, whereby he declared, I am going to give you a groups starting from 1 to 10. So in the Dasuththara Sutta, if you are interested in finding the references, you may find it in the long discourses, namely Digha Nikaya, towards the latter part. And Venerable Sariputta first give one group consists of 10 numbers. Whole point is 1 point and 10 numbers. And then he give 2 points, 10 numbers, 3 points, 10 numbers, 4 points. Later only, after the great demise of the Buddha, in the first synod, they put Anguttara Nikaya. It is a numerical order. All the knowledge the Buddha given in numerical order. This is the fetus or the primordial shape where knowledge started to get organized. Therefore, one can say this is more towards the theoretical aspects, but personally, I find Venerable Sariputta is a very pragmatic person. Is always put the practical theory or practical understanding in a data analysis or make a theory of knowledge so that easy for someone to keep it in mind and by heart, and always easy to teach to the second generation, because at that time there were no other teaching techniques like present day. So one has to by heart. So one has to by heart what are the things Buddha taught in 1 in all. Second thing, 2 in 1, 3 in 1, 4 in 1. Likewise, this is the very first, that kind of a compilation. This happened during the contemporary time of the Buddha. And for this retreat, namely the number 100, I am going to take the book of 2, because in July, last time in the USA, we covered the book of 1, and if someone is interested in, he or she can visit the website and go for Florida Gainesville Retreat Center. We had 10-day retreat and we took one by one, and that is been recorded. And if someone is going to study that all discourses and this one, you can see the same thing appearing again here, how these points become a complement, the part of 3 groups, 2 groups, 4 groups. So you can understand the Dhamma, the very Dhamma that is called our understanding of the teaching of the Buddha, that also evolving as far as you are meditating. At the beginning you may think, for this matter, this is the only aspect, or this is the only proximate aspect. If you know that, that's it, that you know it. But when you keep on practicing, you may understand, specifically when you are studying the canon, there are other occasions. Buddha has mentioned 2 reasons, sometimes 3 reasons, sometimes 4 reasons. So it depends. So therefore, one day you will understand what you call Dhamma, what we are going to learn, itself is changing. So it is a very difficult thing for someone to understand how can the one variable factor or one proximate factor can be interpreted as a part and parcel of 2 factors, and part and parcel of the 3 factors, like it is going on. That is why I wish to recognize this sutta as the theory of knowledge. Very first thing, Venerable Sariputta says, I am going to teach you starting from 1 to the 9 to the 10, and that hopefully give the way out or way to the Nibbana, or the procedure that you have to follow. That means he has not put everything theoretical basis, but the Venerable Sariputta himself is presenting in a pragmatic way. It will be a set of guidelines in the sense, and hope, he says, if you are following it, definitely it will lead to the end of suffering, and all the doubts in your mind, all the difficulties in mind will gradually rectified as you keep on practicing, as well as you keep on studying on a theoretical basis. One by one, your doubts will be rectified. After giving that, he says, starting the sutta, starting the content, he says that's a one aspect I would like to call very, very helpful for someone to reach Nibbana. That means, in this particular sutta, the Venerable Sariputta is going to put all the teaching of the Buddha into a nutshell and to one single word. This is the only place you find this kind of a presentation. Except the Buddha, Venerable Sariputta is the only authentic person can give that kind of a presentation. This is historically very important because the canon came through the language called Pali. It is a dead language, so not much dynamic. When it is happening, ultimately Sri Lanka became the possession or the holding nation of the Pali canon, and it also underwent a lot of foreign influence. Some or the other it maintained, some people by heart, and others are written in the ola leaf or palm leaf, and ultimately each and every temple they have certain amount of the Pali scriptures written in ola leaves, and it's a kind of a very lasting kind of a record. When the British people come here, they found there's a kind of a consistency in the Sri Lankan politics, Sri Lankan economy, in the Sri Lankan society. And they thought this is barbaric, this cult group. So they wanted to make Sri Lankan civilized and put into the beloved follower of the God. But they found very difficult because Sri Lankans are really adhering to their own restrainment as of the physical verbal behavior is concerned, and they have their own mental culture, samatha and vipassana. So ultimately it happened for the British people to learn what you find in the scriptures. That is how the Pali Text Society came into being. And the Pali Text Society did a great job, and they put everything in a graphic manner. So you know, this is the first time give a comprehensive approach to the Tipitaka, and they put into books and translated with great pain. But whole thing happened in a critical approach to disprove what you find in the books, when compared to the Gospels of the God or the theism. But ultimately they found this Tipitaka, the scripture, is going to give a very essential essence. So it is going to give a kind of a practice and way of life and end of suffering, and everything is there. Ultimately they end up with the Pali Text Society. And last, Rhys Davies wanted to present everything into a nutshell, and she started writing a book to see what is the main teaching of the Buddha. Because it is usually you have about 50 odd books, thick books. So it is not like a single Bible, it is not like a single Quran. It's a huge collection of books. So unless otherwise you are a scholastic person, very difficult to finish everything. But they did a group action, and ultimately Mrs. Rhys Davies wanted to compile everything. And when she is presenting, she told in some books, teaching of the Buddha, say anicca dukkha anatta, impermanent, suffering and non-self. So it appears like the main teaching. In other some books it says Four Noble Truths, the truth of suffering, cause for suffering, and elimination of suffering, and pathway to elimination of suffering. And some other books it says, teaching of the Buddha is Eight Noble Paths, and that is containing everything. So some, and others says no, it is the three kind of training, moral training, or moral restrainment, concentration, and the wisdom. Some others says no, it is about the raga dosa moha, it's a desire, hatred, and the ignorance. So there are a lot of views, and ultimately she ended the book without a conclusion, telling that teaching of the Buddha you can't put into a nutshell, and that was the acceptance. When I go to Burma, while learning, that my teacher used to say, you have to learn only one thing. Don't worry about these scholastic people. They end up with so much of mess up with theories, philosophies, philosophizing. They can't understand the teaching of the Buddha. But if you are really practicing person, pragmatic person, he says, diligence is the only thing you have to understand, and diligence will lead to anything. So therefore in the Burmese vipassana or insights places, they always record the last word of the Buddha. The Buddha, before his great demise, he mentioned, Apamadena bhikkhave sampadeta vai dhamma sankhara. O monks, fulfill your duties diligently, because all the formations are subject to change. So your diligence is the only thing. Beginning is the diligence, middle is the diligence, end is the diligence. And therefore Sayadaw used to say, don't worry about the lack of theory. Don't worry about the lack of discipline. Don't worry about the lack of past experience. You just now, here, now, start diligence and learn the meaning of diligence. Study the definition of the diligence and put into practice, and ultimately you will understand theory, you will understand the system, you will understand the path, you will understand the getting rid of suffering. So that was a kind of a challenge for me to understand. Your theoretician says you can't reduce the Buddhism into nutshell. But the practical master says it is so simple, only one word. This sutta is the first thing, bridging the knowledge. Venerable Sariputta, he says only one thing, very, very helpful, greatly helpful, that is diligence. So in the Florida retreat, very first day, I took time to give this historical background to understand how much it is important for a practical person or a yogi to understand the diligence. If you miss it, you miss the bus. You will get the PhDs, you will get the understanding of the theoretical knowledge, you will by heart them, you will get degrees and PhDs, but you will never get any change into your personality, any refinement in your likings and disliking, anything to your habitual way. So therefore, if you wish kind of a real start, real change, diligence is the thing you have to understand. So it is very, in Sri Lankan language, appamada is a Pali language, sorry, but there is no direct translation to Sinhala. We usually say appamada itself is appamada. Luckily or unluckily, opposite of diligence is very common in Sri Lanka. You can find a lot of terms, pamada, the delay, negligence, and therefore we are a nation, always we do things 30 minutes before behind the program. That is a natural characteristic of Sri Lanka. Any schedule we do, usually 30 minutes behind. So we are the people holding the Buddhism. We are the people teaching the Buddhism to the world. But ultimately we have to say, the main teaching of the Buddha is diligence, the vigilance, and be here and now. When you come to very interesting, when you come to the book of 2, again Venerable Sariputta is asking, what are the most helpful 2 things you must learn? If, as far as you have to learn what is the most helpful single thing, diligence. And now I am going to start for this retreat, book of 2, he is asking again the same question. What are the 2 things greatly helpful? Then he says, mindfulness and the clear comprehension, that is sati and sampajanya. That may be the reason in the commentarial exegesis, the diligence, the translation of appamada, is considered as a synonym with the mindfulness. So when you are reading commentarial exegesis, you find they are almost synonymous. Whatever the diligence, sometimes being replaced by the mindfulness. And in this particular presentation, it is mindfulness and the clear comprehension. Some people translate it as deliverance or awareness instead of clear comprehension. So therefore, please adhere to the Pali term so that there won't be much of a misunderstanding. Pali's term is sati and sampajanya. The sati is been translated and commonly used present day as mindfulness. Some people, namely Venerable Jnanaponika from Buddhist Publication Society, he sometimes uses awareness, and sampajanya is translated as clear comprehension, and some people it was a deliberate effort. So today what I thought was to base the talk on sati and sampajanya, mindfulness and the clear comprehension, and this is almost like a two-way explanation of the same term, diligence. Appamada is the Pali term, almost like sati, and appamada is translated as diligence. Sati is being translated the mindfulness. So whenever Venerable Sariputta is asking only one thing, if you wish to understand what is the most greatly helpful, he says diligence. If you wish to know two things, what are the two things very, very helpful, greatly helpful for your spiritual development, then Sati and Sampajanya, mindfulness and the clear comprehension. So as I mentioned, I am going to take the book of two, and the first thing is, two things is to understand the mindfulness and the clear comprehension. So again, if I am to refer back to the set of instructions we give, the basic instruction we give for the beginner, try to introduce as much as possible. This retreat is to develop or establish the mindfulness. That is called Satipatthana, or based on mindfulness. So at the early few days, I have to take time to convince or to tell the beginners, don't consider this as a concentration camp. No, not for the concentration. Concentration is the samadhi. I don't touch it. Before that, I would like to present the basic instructions again. That is to introduce mindfulness, and later, as the series of talks continue, as the yogis are continuing practice, they will understand, whenever the mindfulness becomes consistent, mindfulness is gaining the acceleration, then concentration sets in. So therefore, don't put the concentration forefront. Instead, try to understand our whole effort theoretically or deductive way or in practical way to understand or to define mindfulness and to experience it. And our whole effort, sole effort, is to give the priority for the mindfulness. The mindfulness, as I mentioned, in Pali Canon, you find as Sati, Satipatthana Sutta, is the main thing the Buddha took time, and he told if someone is following this way of Satipatthana or established with mindfulness, it is the one and the only way to the Nibbana. But when I became interested in Buddhism in my age 26, it took me about 4 to 5 years. First thing to understand, main thing is sati, main thing is diligence. I was vehemently against this idea. I thought, no, I am a traditional Buddhist, born into a Buddhist family, and we don't know what does it mean by mindfulness, we don't know what does it mean by the diligence, but still we are Buddhist. And therefore, is someone going to say, main thing you have to study is mindfulness? I was arguing against. If someone is going to say the main thing is diligence, I was arguing against. Therefore, it took about more than 3 years for me to understand and accept the diligence and the mindfulness is the main thing. And even after that, when I put into practice, from that day onward up to now, still I am learning the definition of mindfulness. It is ever evolving, ever diversifying, but we have to start somewhere. And then keep on apply theoretical knowledge, practical knowledge, and you keep on, ultimately you find mindfulness is sometimes go in deep, the depth, sometimes go in breadth. So whenever it is going wider and the breadth, you call it is the mindfulness in the day-to-day activities. When it is go deep, we call mindfulness in sitting meditation. So don't try to have a fixed idea, the mindfulness in sitting is this, and mindfulness in the day-to-day activities is that, and don't claim that you know mindfulness. Keep the mind always open, practice again and again, learn again and again different definitions, then only you will see it is a lifelong research. You can't comprehend it by reading a book or listening to a talk, or why overnight. But it won't be much of a problem, because once you try to give the priority to the mindfulness or the diligence, after a certain development or certain momentum, the mindfulness and the diligence will take care about your total well-being. Nothing to worry. As far as you are introducing, as far as you are setting the motion, it's a painfully slow. I am repeating, it is painfully slow. Because you don't believe mindfulness is going to do so much of a great help. You never believe the diligence is going to give us so much of help. So therefore, at the beginning, not a born Buddhist person like me, or non-Buddhists, even younger people or the middle-aged or old elderly people, everyone is a task, because we are so unmindful in our life. That is why it is difficult to introduce. We are so negligent about our duties. That is why the diligence become very, very important. So to cite few examples, please remember, I am using both the terms, the diligence and the mindfulness, as a synonyms. And now I am going to cite an example, our inefficiencies as far as diligence is concerned. We monks, we have our duties from morning to evening. Each and every hour is scheduled. Each day is scheduled. Each week is scheduled. Each month is scheduled. Whole year is scheduled. So therefore we have to keep up with that. So therefore we have to be diligent. So therefore, if anyone is running a household life, they know there are 24 hours not enough to fulfill duties. You have so much of duties, so much of things to do. So therefore, definitely we people, of course, what we gathered here, may be above average from the normal human being with respect to the political powers and the social powers and the economical powers. That is why we can come to a retreat like that and take few days off, because we have no much of a pressing problems. That is, of course, due to a diligence. We have been some or the other successful in our life, and we people became monk and full-time meditating, and you people also sometimes take so much of days for meditation. So you and we can claim we are diligent people. But the teaching of the Buddha, it says diligence is not a single aspect or single side of the duties. To be diligent, to do something you have to do. The other side of the diligence is not to do what you should not do. That is the part we are losing. That is in there only we have to learn a lot. As far as doing and fulfilling duties, we are vehemently chasing behind and try to fulfill it. But there are huge amount of do's equally as well as not doing, don'ts. That is the part we call restrainment. In that side, we have a lot of loopholes. So, if someone is trying to concern how much I am diligent not to do what I should not do, it's a huge area. We can see we have never given enough light, enough attention. So because we are always hiding it, and we try to fulfill duties and wish to claim we are diligent people. But the teaching of the Buddha is basically, he says, first do no harm. That is the diligence. Not fulfilling duties, not doing good things. It is come second. First and foremost is not to do. First do no harm. Sabba papa sakarana. So not a single religion or single religious person recognize this as the diligence. So therefore we are very keen, we are very engrossed with do's, but how much we are negligent about don'ts, not to do, That is called, don't do physical misdeeds, don't do verbal misdeeds. That is called morality, moral restrainment. So, whenever we come to a retreat like this, at least we take 8 precepts, and so that we are little above the normal moral responsibilities. And when you come here, we do away with killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and lying, slandering, harsh words, and bearing tales. And you can understand how much it is different from your day-to-day life, because in the monastic life, more geared towards not to do what you should not do. And that part, if you go to a Western culture, or so-called developed countries, they never consider it as a criterion to see how much you are civilized. They are completely negligent. They are killing like anything. They are robbing like anything. Their sexual misconduct even difficult to communicate. They never consider the sex as a misconduct. They don't know a conduct and misconduct. And lying, slandering, harsh words, tail carrying, no end. And we call they are the developed people. We call they are the first world people, and we call third world people. We can't say better off, because we can't do, that is why we are being better off. Otherwise, if it is possible, we also would do the same kind of killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. So there you have to understand how the civilization, how the humanity as such, leading more and more towards the erosion of the moral restrainment or moral fear and a moral shame. It is, when you go to a country like America, very difficult to talk on this subject, because the number of generations they have raised without that background. Therefore, if you talk with the younger generation, you can't cope up with their communication. They very difficult to introduce moral shame and the moral fear. It considers as backward qualities. It considers as the barbaric qualities. They have no. So therefore, one has to understand humanity as such, or individual, how much we are negligent and neglected about the restrainment. So main touch of the Buddha in terms of diligence is reminding you and ask you to keep always in your mind, first do no harm, or take care about your physical and verbal deeds, or not to do misconduct. And that is called first and foremost restrainment. Therefore, diligence have 3 restrainments. First thing is the moral responsibility and moral restrainment, that is called sila sikha in Pali. And then only then you are qualified to take up this concentration sikha or samadhi sikha. Without moral restrainment, you are not qualified to take up with this meditation and concentrate on one object of meditation, and to gain certain amount of concentration. And then, whenever you have moral restrainment as well as the concentration restrainment, you become qualified to vipassana or wisdom, and that is how it is being presented. So therefore, more and more you advance, the diligence going to give the nuance of restrainment rather than what you should do. So in the 3rd day or 4th day in your retreat, you may understand, as far as the sitting meditation is concerned, if I have to quickly jump into that subject, in sitting meditation what the Buddha recommends is just sit, try to do nothing and let everything happen and observe it diligently. That is why it says, go to a forest, sit under a tree, or go to a solitude place, so that there won't be no much of provocation, no much of parties, no much of other kind of thing. you are surrounded by trees and the normal things, and you sit. Sitting posture is the most diligent and inactive position. So you assume the sitting posture, you make yourself comfortable, relax, and just observe after closing your eyes, not listening outside, don't smell, don't taste, just see the tactile sensation that is happening without your volitional activity, without your intention, and that is what we call sitting meditation. Very sharply, it is going from doing to happening or just being. While being diligence, you can find how difficult, soon you sit, how much pain, how much wandering mind, how much daydreaming, how much fantasizing, because we are not, our mind is not geared to just see what is happening, just to see, just be. So always it is up to mischief, always up to craftsmanship. So that is how you can win the Nobel Prize or Magsaysay Prize or anything by doing. But if Buddha to give a Nobel Prize, that is to say how many hours you can just sit and wait, just being. The Buddha says, I can be 7 days. The maximum 7 days without any action he can be. Then he claimed, can you do 6 days? No. 5 days? No. 4 days? Continuously? No. 3 days, 2 days, 1 day, half a day, 6 hours, 3 hours. We can't just sit and wait. Then you can see how much we are negligent in doing nothing, or further not to do what you should not do. So therefore, sitting meditation itself is very radical presentation for you to think whenever something happening, or just be and observe how much the mind become fish out of water. Very difficult to just wait and see. So that indicates whenever you are being presented with the diligence with the both the sides, not only diligent in doing your duties, but also be diligent in not doing anything and just observe, being very vigilantly, very diligently, very mindfully, and yet another challenge come immediately. Imagine when you come and sit, take a sitting cushion and sitting posture, and try to bring the mind to here, now I am sitting and experiencing the present moment. Can a single person communicate and tell what you experience? Not a single person can talk, because that very experience is beyond the language, beyond the grammar. So therefore, soon you come here and now, you become dumb bow. It is so profound, it is so spiritual, it is so religious. Any person can come and experience here, now I am sitting. And you have to diligently observe it. And if suppose you are to communicate with yet another yogi, or to communicate and report to your teacher, what will happen, what do you experience, what do you feel when you come sit and become here and now? You can see that very thought moment, that very experience, it is beyond language. But that very experience definitely you are sharing with Buddha. Whether Buddha come and sit and try to experience, or you just a normal person come and experience is the same. Even though you can't communicate it. So therefore, if you going to value this here now I am experience as a sign of diligence, and you will try your whole life, how many thought moments I can sit and see the being, just what is happening, or my just being, and no theory necessary, not a single theory necessary. Only the thing is you have to value it. You have to appreciate it, because this is possible only for only human beings. No animal can do it. No Deva, no Brahma, no one can do it. Only the human can do. Imagine, out of the so much of 6 billion or 7 billion, maybe I don't know the amount of people on the earth, how much, what is the proportion? Even think about just be diligence here and now. They are so much of carried away by so much of duties and future projections and past regret and kind of thing. Be here and now. So that is why Venerable Sariputta says, if you wish to know what is the single thing which is most beneficial and great, helpful much, that is the diligence. And now we are going to take that very diligence. If you wish to know the two things which are more beneficial and grateful, mindfulness and the clear comprehension. So therefore, from that diligent, if you come back to the mindfulness, it become little scientific, it will become technical, and one can say, wherever you may be, if you know, here now I am, this is one kind of a definition for the mindfulness. If you are sitting, here now I am sitting. When you are walking, here now I am walking. You are standing, here now I am standing. And you are lying down and sleeping, here now I am sleeping. So to highlight it, so to give a hiatus, my teacher used to say, when you are sitting, and you know you are sitting, you are, and as well as you, if you know verily you are not walking, you are not standing, you are not sleeping, that's all you have to understand. That's the whole teaching of Buddha. When you are sitting, you know you are sitting, and verily you know you are not standing. Verily you know you are not walking, you are not lying. So lying down. And when you are sitting, if you are chasing behind the breath or rising and falling, and if you expect the concentration to happen, so all expectation simply mess up your simple, innocent present moment. So how many days, how many sittings it will take you bring back to the innocence, not to expect anything and to understand I am sitting. While sitting, hearing can happen. Thought can, daydreaming and fantasizing can happen. Pain can happen. In-breath and out-breath can happen. Rising and falling of the abdomen can happen. And if you are going to keep only the in-breath and out-breath and going to hate sounds, pain, thoughts or any kind of thing, it's a kind of regimentation. You are developing so much of tension. The point what I am going to make is, never mind, you may take the breath as your most frequent object. Or some people can take rising and falling of the abdomen as the most frequent or most conspicuous object. While it is happening, if the sound going to happen or thought or pain, if you are going to complain that your mindfulness is broken, that is the only thing I kindly ask you to reconsider. Even though you are keeping the breath as your primary object, you try to keep the breath face to face with, bringing the stream of consciousness to the sound, for example, and don't get disheartened, don't become worried. As far as you, if you can understand, I am sitting here, I am not walking, I am not standing, I am not lying down, that your sitting posture is a highly verifiable object, so that you have nothing to worry as far as in sitting, you know I am sitting. So much of simplicity, if you are going to say, the single term you can use it is, you are so innocent. You never expect sound to not to happen, thought to not to happen, pains not to happen, not to run away from the breath, or not to run away from the rising and falling. They are cause and effect relationship. Main thing you have to understand, whenever mind go off the track, try to understand, maybe listening, maybe thinking, maybe painful pain, feeling. But if you, as far as you can be aware, I am sitting, I am not walking, I am not standing, I am not sleeping, that very sitting posture or familiarity to the sitting posture, simply you can say, I am mindful, I am diligent. Being diligent, mind, it has gone to unexpected sounds and the thoughts and the pain, but as far as from that point, if you can still can feel the sitting posture, that verification, that very present moment will give you a kind of a solace. It is like an oasis when you are traveling in the desert. If you know where the oasis is, if you know which direction, you know how to go there. So like a samsaric journey or our day-to-day life is like crossing a desert. You must understand what is the next oasis where you can find the water. Likewise, whatever may be the unmindfulness and wandering mind and runaway chasing, all the kind of thing, see the possibility to reinstall the mindfulness, to reinstall the diligence. Am I aware whether I am sitting? Am I aware that I am sitting? I am not walking, I am not standing, I am not sleeping. That very diligence, I would like to add number of attributes. One thing is, if you can have the correct set of mind, whatever the distraction, even if you are being recognized as a fast-growing cancer in your brain, still you can be aware you are sitting. Even your most beloved person is at utter danger, still you can be aware you are sitting. Even if your all the property is burnt, still you can be aware. So therefore not a single distraction make you deprived of the present moment. If you know how to make use this and make it a point of diligence, make it a point of mindfulness, you will not complain much about the distractions or mishaps and kind of thing. Instead, you will report, amidst of so much of distractions, amidst of so much of mishaps, still I can be aware of the present moment. I can be aware of the sitting posture. So much so you are with Buddha. So much so you are with Dhamma. So much so you are intact with your precepts. You are diligent, you are mindful. So it's a one attribution, not a single distraction can you cut off from being here and now. And the second thing is, whenever you familiarize here and now, it never recognize here and now as maleness, femaleness, learned, ignorant, young, middle-aged, or old age, ordained or non-ordained, Buddhist and non-Buddhist. So this understanding and be aware of the present moment go beyond all the sectarianism. Ultimately you will end up with humanness. So if you wish to be innocent, if you wish to be a human, take this bodily posture. I am talking about the sitting posture as an example. As far as you have the accessibility to that, you are a human. And the third aspect, if I am to attribute, the very your experience is exactly the way the Buddha experienced the here and now. That is exactly the way Venerable Sariputta is experiencing the here and now. That's the very way all the noble people experience the here and now, because here and now is it's a universal kind of experience. So therefore it has no sectarianism, and you can't say Buddha has a separate kind of special here and now. My mother is having a special kind of a here and now. My father is, and Venerable Sariputta is. No. That is, you can understand, to contact Buddha, to contact Dhamma is so simple. Only thing is, it is momentary. It is momentary, it comes and goes. But amidst of all the mishaps, or unmindful thought moments, or negligent thought moment, if you know how to see only the love spots, if you know how to find the success moments, that is the best way you can develop loving kindness to yourself. Otherwise you always find fault with yourself, always cursing yourself, self-critical, and finding fault with others. You are always in a torturing situation. So here and there, maybe whole day, one thought moment, you can be here and now, and you are only talk about that, happy about the here and now, then you know how to find a reason to be glad under any circumstances. Otherwise, you find others' unmindful situation and negligence and spoil your mind. You make all your unmindful and negligent situation, you make a point to be worried. So much so you are not towards the Dhamma, you are distracting yourself and accumulating so much of demerits. Instead, if you understand the mindfulness or diligence, simply to say, here now I am, then you can say, after listening, after correcting your values, you will find more and more reason, more and more ways and means how to get here and now, maybe in sitting, maybe in walking. If you know I am walking, I am not sitting, I am not standing, I am not sleeping, that's it. That is what you call walking meditation. And if happen you to stand and wait, if you know I am standing, and if you can compare the sitting experience versus the standing experience, so much so you are diligent, so much so you are mindful. And even before going into sleep, if you lie down yourself in the bed, and still you can be aware, the lying down posture, and see, how do you know, how can you verify that you are not sitting, you are not standing, you are not walking? How do you know, how can you verify that you are lying? Need no any theory, need no any equipment, need no prior preparation. It is so revolutionary, it is so radical. So the moment you put yourself in the correct perspective, you can find 1,001 thought moments within a sitting 1 hour, or walking hours, or other day-to-day activities, how much you become self-aware with your posture, with your corporeal body. So that is how you love your body, so that Westerners these days make yourself your best friend. Always keep contact with yourself, and each and every moment you become aware of your posture, consider it as a saved thought moment. So that is how you contribute to the mindfulness and contribute to the diligence, and ultimately imagine, maybe very difficult to imagine, when and where you are proportionately time you mindful exceed the proportion you are unmindful, then onward you are naturally a spiritual being, you are no more a commoner, and still you can see mistakes, but they are human mistakes. You can sympathize yourself, and often you know, soon after the mistake, you know where to go. Where is your solace? Where is your oasis? And you go there, it's a huge relief. In an hour, mostly if you are mindful, occasionally there may be some desireful thoughts, or hateful thoughts, or any other misdeeds. If the before and after this defilement, if you can make sure my mind was mindful, I was diligent, easily you can understand that defiled thought create no any mistake, no any defilement to you, because before and after you were mindful. So Burmese masters, they say, when you are practicing mindfulness meditation or satipatthana in sitting, and you try to keep your breath maybe as a object of meditation, or your posture as an object of meditation, and you can aware, now I am with my body, or I am with my sitting here and now. Occasionally a sound happens, and without a prior notice, mind jump out. And after a while, if the mind come back and again falls calm and quiet with the bodily posture, the Burmese master says, by listening the sound, that unexpected object, create no defilement, because your stream of consciousness, the beginning also mindful, end also mindful, therefore in between there is no defilement. This is the way you can do away with not only the here and now arising defilement, even the past defilements you can do away with. It is called ahosi kamma. So more and more you try to keep the whole day more than 50% diligent, more than 50% mindful, still you can see a lot of human errors. You can see a lot of habitual things are happening, a lot of tendencies are happening, but still you can sympathize. This is because of the habit. We have been so far, so much without mindfulness and without diligence, so therefore mind is naturally run out, go away. So if you know, whenever comes to know how to keep the mind, bring it to here and now, then ultimately meditation is becoming just a hobby. It is not a regimentation. At the beginning, definitely it is painfully slow to give the proper value for the diligence, the proper value for the mindfulness, because it is very boring. This is the fourth aspect. Whenever mind comes here and now, boring, monotonous, uncertain, fearful, no orientation. So at the beginning you find yawning, neck will drop, your body will collapse, and no interest, because when and where you are mindful, no motivation can happen in the world, in the mind. More and more you become mindful, the motivation started erode off. So you be here, no future plans, no worry about the past, because so far you have been motivated by motivation. Now you find being here and now, it's more contented, it's more satisfied, and therefore future plan and past worries you can understand, do away with, because you are mindful. So more and more you practice mindfulness, and that become majority of your time. No one can provoke you, no motivation can change you. Therefore you are no more controlled by a remote control. You take your control into your hand by looking at the bad thing or good desirable objects. Quickly it goes to the hate and the desire, but immediately once the mindfulness reinstalled, you find during the human era it was desire and the undesirable thing happened. Now I know where to install the mindfulness. So therefore external objects like seeing, hearing, smelling, touching, your control or your mastery slowly increasing. So therefore person who do not know mindfulness, person who is not taken time for the mindfulness, is everything is controlled by a remote controller. Media can change you. Politicians can pick you. Bankers and any people can program you. You are just the guinea pigs. And they are masters to plan you for 100, 20, 30 years. When and where you become mindful, and slowly you get rid of this shackle of the remote controller, and you know how to be happy here and now. And later you may find that is contagious. Any person know how to be here and now, and whenever you associate in that kind of people, you find all the formulas, all the knowledges, all the technology is make you from innocent to not innocent situation. The way back to your innocence is so short, Don't worry about whether you are crafty or whether you are manipulator or whether you are with an agenda. That's so much so you are not innocent. But way back to innocent is to be here and now. Soon you come to that innocent position and you understand you are under security. So therefore, if you wish any kind of security, the mindfulness is the proximate cause for the security. So the manifestation of mindfulness is when and where you are mindful, you feel security. It is not by your private army, it is not by the parapet walls, it is not by the firearms, but you feel security. So that is how the mind become healed, and the tension and other things slowly going to away, but it is happening very slowly. If you are theoretically, if you know it, you are better off. If you do not know, it takes long time for you to understand it. So before the talk, end of the talk, I would like to give a comparison. What is the difference between the sati and sampajanya, or mindfulness and the clear comprehension? The sati, to make it simple, when you are doing the breath, if you keep on observing the in-breath and out-breath consecutively, and if you can make sure mind is face-to-face with the breath, you can say it is sati. Imagine a sound happens and mind distracts to the sound, and you now know, you are no more with the breath, but you know instead now we are with the sound, but still, even though object is changed, if you can make sure still the mindfulness is not broken, mindfulness is continuous, even the change of the object, that is called comprehension, object to object change, but the mindfulness continuous. The more canonical presentation is, posture to posture you may change, even at the posture junction, you are mindful. That is called comprehension. Sampajanya Pabbha, in the Satipatthana Sutta it says, when you look forward and when you look sideways. You are bending arms and when you are stretching arms. Whatever the posture junctions, sitting to stand, stand to lie, each and every time don't believe changing of the posture is breaking of your mindfulness. Try to be more diligent, more vigilant, more mindful when you get up from the sitting posture, and how you change it to the standing. And if you can do that sitting to stand in a slow way, mindful way, and a silent way, SMS, one day you will add, even though you get up from the sitting, posture change, but the mindfulness is intact. So, while the posture changing, still if you can maintain, or if you can claim, or if you can appreciate, my mindfulness is not broken, that is what you call the comprehension. That is how slowly you will learn multitasking. One thing at a time, and that done well, we can say mindfulness. While changing from one to the other, still don't worry, don't be disheartened. Try to keep the track with the posture junctions from one to the other, and then one day you will understand. That is the point. Mostly mindfulness get damaged, mindfulness become eroded. So if you can develop kind of a comprehension, clear comprehension or deliberation to understand while the posture junction is happening, still my mindfulness is not broken or not completely discontinued, that is the point. You become mature yogi or senior yogi. Even the posture changes, you never complain that mindfulness is broken. So when that happens, sitting to walking, walking to sitting, even though posture changes, you can see continuity of the mindfulness. When such a thing happen, under the Maha system, they give you a task, start mindfulness right from your waking up in the morning and try to continue it to the the last minute you are going to sleep, throughout the day, try to keep the track of the mindfulness, even though it is not very deep and profound, the continuity, there only you will understand. The day, very first day, you have to experience the mindfulness is consistent, not completely thoroughly, but here and there, then you are worth calling a yogi, worth calling a meditator. So at the beginning you do here and there, bit and pieces, and piecemeal basis. Ultimately you make a garland from different postures, one after the other, and then only you will understand. Even we are living in a multitasking way, even you are living in among the immoral people, even though you are living amidst of the unmindful people, but it is your prime duty not to complain by changing the object or changing the posture about the breaking of the mindfulness. Try to see the continuity. That day your whole brain start to work. Otherwise you are using maybe 2%, 3% of your brain. Because you are doing one thing at a time, and that done well, that need no much of, even a monkey can do it. Even a chimpanzee can do it. Chimpanzee can run an electric train, no problem. But you have to have a driver from changing from the posture, from the junction to the by roads, and from the by roads to the main road. So therefore, whenever the mindfulness gaining the power and try to understanding the continuity of the mindfulness from posture to posture, object to object, one day you will change any object from me, change any posture of me, I will try to claim, or I will try to maintain the mindfulness as much as possible. Then you will be a kind of a person. You will never complain outside. You will try to develop the mindfulness amidst of posture junctions and the changing of the objects. So then you are worth calling living. Otherwise you are living very partial. You are living within your likings and disliking. Whenever the mind ready to accept any object or any posture, not to the 100%, but at least as a challenge, then you are using the whole neurobics in your brain. Lot of nervous circuits are going to work, how to maintain the mindfulness and the clear comprehension. And that is how Venerable Sariputta says, these are the most beneficial two things you have to understand. You have to start with mindfulness and then diversify into the clear comprehension. In Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha says, clear comprehension first and then the mindfulness. Sampajano satima. All the other suttas, Buddha says, sati sampajanya. If you are familiar with the Pali, that means after you learn the art of changing posture to posture, object to object, the sampajanya is helpful to the mindfulness, and mindfulness is reciprocally helpful to the clear comprehension. They gather the momentum. So this is how, from the negligent life, you try to be diligent. Let it happen very slow way at the beginning, even though it is painfully slow. Take time, because this very business, this very meditation, you can't do when you become old age, when you become sick, when you are at the deathbed. So when you are in the prime time of your life, you have to practice it, and definitely it will help when you become sick. Definitely will help when you go to the old age and the deathbed. So therefore the mindfulness to be passive being, just being, we can say it's rehearsing the death. That's why it appears very boring. That's why it appears very monotonous. But anyway, we volunteer to do it. So we are temporarily experience the momentary death, but still you can say the mindfulness continue. Ultimately you will realize the death. Even through the death, mindfulness will not be broken. That is what you call steadfast mindfulness. Hope today's talk will help you to promote what you all are doing and aim towards the steadfast mindfulness. With that remark, I would like to sum up the today's talk. Thank you very much for listening.